Hey, my name is Emily Merrill. I'm a taco-loving people connector, and I'm obsessed with playing the name game and all things networking. I'm the founder of Second Degree Society, a female-focused networking community, as well as a business coach for female business owners passionate about bringing their business to the next level with the help of events, community, and connections. I crave deep conversations and am continuously curious to see what makes people tick, and am invested in uncovering their stories with some life lessons along the way. This podcast is aimed to inspire and educate as you tackle your busy day. So join the conversation and tune in for the Second Degree podcast.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome back to the Second Degree podcast with Emily Merrill. I'm your host, Emily, and today I am so excited to have my friend Carolin Helff here live in the virtual studio to talk about all things finances. So, Carolin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Hello, hello.
And I want to caveat to everyone, this is my first podcast I'm recording post-maternity leave. So if my brain all of a sudden becomes the mushy emoji, the one where you're just melty, just bear with me, the brain is readjusting to it all. But I am so grateful to have you here, Carolin. And it has been such a fun journey to watch you grow in your business and understanding who you are. So before we kick things off, can you give us a little intro on who is Miss Carolin?
Oh, most absolutely. Well, first of all, welcome back. Emily, it is fantastic to have you back after the second little one that I got to meet when he was about 5 weeks old. So yay, no worries about your brain. And I'm honored to be on this podcast. So thank you for having me. Okay, let's see. Who is Miss Carolin? And we sometimes joke that I'm on kind of my third, chapter in life, because that's just a very typical thing. I've kind of gone around the world a little bit. I'm currently based in New York City, but born and raised in Germany for the first about, 18 years of my life, and have ever since lived in, I think, 7 or 8 different countries, gone the kind of like global management route. So international parts are a big part of Miss Carolin. And it comes through often, and a curiosity for lots of different perspectives. And I currently find myself in a, project and business that I'm super, super passionate about, and that is finances for women.
I think it's incredible that you've had all these different chapters, and I've read or I've heard or seen that, like, I think we're supposed to have five chapters in our life, like 5 different careers. And I don't know about you, Carolyn, but I feel bad for the people that only had one taste of something in their life.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so with you. I think there's so much out there, right? And if we sometimes go after opportunities and yeah, just opportunities and maybe just making our own perspective and horizon a little wider by going a little further, I think that's just so epic because the experiences you get from that are just absolutely priceless.
And the fact that you've had that experience of living in 7 to 8 different countries, most Americans don't even have their passports, and you've lived there and you've like actually, set up residency, which one of the things I find so cool about you is reside, I think we can use the word reside, currently between New York City and Mexico City.
That's right. Yeah.
Yet you've lived in multiple other cities that there are. But okay, so Carolyn, you are on this next project / chapter of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You are the founder of the Financially Fierce. And not only that, but you're a certified financial education instructor.
Mm-hmm.
But as you referenced, your journey started long before the Financially Fierce. So can you walk us through some like key pivotal moments that led you into actually wanting to like jump away from the global jet setting and set up this financial education and empowerment company?
Yeah, absolutely. Where do we even start? I always say what I do think has definitely played a role is I was born and raised in Germany, and just that surrounding, right? Like my upbringing, my parents, and what society was like would have been probably quite a bit different than some components of the US. Very typical Germans don't grow up with credit cards.
Really?
It's no, and definitely when I grew up, this wasn't a thing. Now, obviously, we have credit cards, but the part of getting a really high credit line, for example, if you don't actually have that money in your bank account, is very not typical. And so I grew up with the like mindset around, if we don't have the money for this, we don't spend the money for this, unless we're talking about things like, a house, a car, maybe a massive like education component, something like that. Other than that, like if you don't have that, we don't spend on it. And so I always say,
you're fiscally responsible. This is so wild. style.
Yeah, let's maybe put a spin off. There is probably an upbringing of slightly responsible, a bit more frugal. Like, is probably
Yes.
the word. Like, we don't live above our means, or at least I didn't grow up living above my means.
What? No,
Wild,
I've
right?
never done that. We'll go to therapy later after this call.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so that's just, one of the parts where it's like, okay, and you don't know this until you don't know that. And one of my first stations, I did go as a high school student to the US for a year. Obviously, absolutely loved it. There was lots of amazing things. And then the next station after that, the first one after high school, is I worked for a year in Dubai. And that was, almost 20 years ago. Dubai was like super just crazy at the times. Obviously, that's the kind of, wealth that I had never seen before. Like nowadays, I think everybody kind of knows what, Dubai stands for, but like the utter luxury, people that they're like the way people, talk about money or how normal money is around is so, so different. And I was there for a year long. I worked in one of the, only 7-star hotels at the time. And so I was
Seven
just
stars?
yeah. It was this entire thing on, it wasn't comparable to anything 5-star. And so I was just surrounded by such
Wow.
utter wealth where I was just like, holy smokes. Okay. And so I think that definitely gave me a glimpse into, how people were just operating very differently on that level. And also there we were paid and tips and everything in cash. And so as a, somewhat like 20-year-old, I got cash envelopes every other week as like, here's your salary and some extra tip money. And I was just like, oh my God, I am living in money. And I think
Did
that
you,
was definitely, yeah, do stop.
well, I was gonna say, did you ever do like a oh my God, what's it? Scrooge McDuck moment where you like threw the cash on a bed and then just jumped on it? Because if you had a salary,
I think there
yeah,
was something like that.
okay,
Yeah, where you're just
that's
like, wait, there's so many dirhams, which is the currency in Dubai in my hand. And I was just like, this is wild. And all my, colleagues and friends were all doing that. We're just like, wait, what? Like we've never had this. And I luckily, right, I was pretty responsible with it, I would say. And so I stashed a good amount aside because I knew I was only going to be there for a year. I was going to go to university after. I was going to study. There were going to be some pretty, high expenses coming towards me. And so I actually stashed away a good amount, and was just like, this is pretty crazy. As in, can I still, with a little bit of help from my parents, just buy this car for myself? And like all these things. And so I think that was one of the first moments of just being surrounded by that kind of wealth and luxury that you're just like, they operate differently. People with that think differently.
and I also think like being around hearing how you were born and raised versus then entering into a world of such opulence where their car breaks down or their car doesn't break down, it's out of gas and they just
It
get a
does,
new car.
right?
Yeah. I imagine that was it was jarring, but also probably really expansive for you
Mhm.
and thinking and giving you that permission, like, I can have more or I'm able to have more. It's not wrong. Look at these people who have a $200,000 a month allowance for their baby. Like
Exactly.
it's okay to want for
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, totally. And I think the big part, luckily, it wasn't so much the materialistic things that, obviously as a 20-year-old, you find them super flashy and you see all these cars and you see all the like luxury designer boutiques and everything. But I think the stuff that really stuck with me is the kind of experiences they could afford. Like
Mm,
it didn't matter if this was a once in a lifetime dinner that was going to cost $1,000 per person, because that's just next level of an experience. It was are you, somebody is treating their wife, their husband, their partner, their kids to a helicopter flight of, we're never going to do this again. There's this one amazing like experience of, like beautiful tents in the middle of like the desert that you're just not having access to. And so it's these experiences where I was like, oh my goodness. And I remember my mom came to visit and we got the so-called staff rates at the hotel. And it was her birthday and she visited me and I got, such a staff rate. And so I booked us a suite that we would have never been able to afford if
mhm.
it wasn't for me probably paying 20% of the price. And her face when we walked in, that was just priceless. The butler, took the suitcase and was like, are you okay? For us
Yeah.
to unpack this for you. My mom was like, wait, excuse me, what? You want to do what with my suitcase?
Yeah. Don't touch my
It was
stuff.
just adorable. And, those are kind of the memories that we're never going to forget. And it was really those experiences where I was like, wow,
Yeah.
there's some cool stuff out there
Yeah.
that you better have the cash for to do and do that with loved ones.
Yeah, it like helps you up level that. So then thinking about, okay, Germany to Dubai, was there a personal aha moment besides seeing your mom's face, I mean, with the butler interaction, but where it really helped you understand the money or like breaking through a financial block that you may have subconsciously not even known that you had.
I don't think at that time really, because it was almost just this like outlier year, right? Where it was just like, wow, how do I even go back to what I'm used to, what I knew before? And I've always definitely been, I would say, the hustler. Like how I
Mhm.
got that job in Dubai was, taking up a job in Germany as a waitress. I'm quite the people person. I'm very extroverted. I love being around people. So, the hospitality industry was made for me at the time, kind of thing. And so I
Yeah.
was just really in it and was able to, like bolster up the money I had available to me quite a bit more. And I think it was just like, wow, I know that I can make money based on the skill set I have, knowing and liking people, and let's go from here. But then I still went to university, right? Like I studied international management, did my master's degree. And so there was like money making component. But at that time, it was very much still, I can make money with my skill set and me showing up and me putting the hours in, and somebody is going to pay me good money for the hours I'm putting in. And I
So
think that's the massive component that we're now coming to, and that I very much teach on the aha moment that I had years later, where it's like, as long as you were just trading your time, you're going to be tied to either somebody else's rules, as in if you're employed, right, an employer, a company, whatever it is, or even a business that's entirely tied to it is your hour. It is every single hour that somebody will pay you for, but not necessarily the value creation or the transformations you can create for someone. And that's also where some multipliers come in. And so that's where a lot of the deep finances that I now, guide women to kicks in.
I think that is such not a gentle, a strong reminder for people to like that we are trading money for trading time for money. And when you are creating your own business, it is so much more beyond that. It's not just that salary. It's not There was a moment I remember asking for, I think I got a $10,000 raise in my corporate job, and I felt like a millionaire. I was like, "Oh my God,
Of course.
$10,000 more." And then I think it was after I left the job, I did the math. I was like, "What is $10,000 broken down?" But this is before taxes,
Yeah.
but by month, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't even $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is so sad. And that
Mm-hmm.
is, but we're just waiting for like that next bone to be thrown at
Totally.
you, that next reward, that next ping of dopamine. So
Totally.
I'm like, eager to dive into multipliers and
Yeah.
thinking about that more. So, going back to your childhood, I feel like you were given a general rule of thumb of financial literacy. And, or, like
Yes
how
or no? We can dive into that.
Yes, we can dive into it, but like we live within means,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Not
Very much.
necessarily like grow wealth, but live within means
Mm-hmm.
where it is true in America. We play this game of credit where
Mm-hmm.
it's like you opened a credit card at 18 and your credit
Mm-hmm.
score is better, even though you've got $300 in your bank account. And you don't have a credit card, but you have $80,000 in your bank account, but your credit's garbage. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's like credit is very much a motivator in America for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
It's this, I always feel like it's monopoly money, truth be
Yeah.
told. It's
Yeah.
like,
Very.
it just doesn't feel real. So, in having both experienced both Germany, Dubai, multiple other countries, and America, what are some common money myths or narratives that you've A, heard, and then also that you like to work to dispel?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'll kind of segue it to what I mentioned before, that part of where
Mhm.
you are exchanging money for time. This is one of the, I would say, patterns that I have seen everywhere, and it's very much also how I grew up. So both my parents were and are entrepreneurs. My dad had his own like software company, and my mom is a private doctor, so she has her own practice. But
Oh.
everything for both of those times meant, as long as they were present, as long as they were there, the more hours they put in, that very typical hustle, the more money was kind of there. And most of the times, right, that directly worked out. And so I grew up with this, you just gotta hustle really, really hard for your money, and then you can make it. And at the same time, I always tell my parents, like, the money that they made went straight back into the system, aka we're gonna renovate our house, we're gonna get you a better education, we're gonna put more into like growing our businesses, right? Like investments directly back into their system. And so what I see a lot today, and this is like the same in Germany and in the US, wherever, I work with a lot of the typical female hustlers. It's the, if I just work harder, if I just run a little faster on this hamster wheel, if I just climb whatever ladder I've built for myself or society has set for me and just go do that, this is where the wealth is happening. And that is one of the most, like the biggest myth, because
Mhm.
just because you hustle really hard does not mean you're going to be wealthy unless you also get super, super strategic and actually start really making the money you're making in your hustle start to work for you. Otherwise, you're going to just be on the hamster wheel and it'll keep running and you will make it go faster or it will make it go faster, but you're going to be stuck in that hamster wheel.
And I'm so happy you said that because I think there's a lot of feelings that come up when you say like work harder, work harder, work harder. Um, I think so many people work really, really hard and say also allow themselves like joy when this happens.
Oh,
Like
the conditional when.
it
When and if. Oof.
kills
Yeah,
me.
I know. Same.
Right? I know I have so many people that come to my mind that are like, I'm not allowed to take a vacation until
Yeah.
or I can do something personal and
Yeah.
joyful and cup filling when and
Oh, yeah.
and then they don't get there and then they shrink inwards and they get more sad and they get less motivated and like the stress and the cortisol levels and then they die. So that's it.
Right. But
That's
people are also like, I think that's a great point. And also when the when and the if, our
Mhm.
psychology, the point might come, and at that point you're just moving the goalpost.
1,000%.
You're like, oh, but only when and if, but now's not the right time. If I just do another a little more. And
Mhm.
so you're constantly moving the goalpost that like it's constantly as if you're running a marathon and somebody is like like moving the
Yeah.
finish line for you. And you're just like,
One
but I'm
more
almost
mile.
there. But you're kind of doing it to yourself, right? And we're obviously not doing that like super in a super conscious way. But I think it's a dangerous trap to fall into because then you really are in that hamster wheel. And I'm a firm believer that we don't live for that. And this might be another part where the German thing comes through. Like, do we live to work or do we
No.
work to live?
Yes. Yes. Oh,
And I bring that through, I think quite a bit on being like, well, can we get like if you ask someone, right? Or if you like we've had dinner together, we've like been in so many like different groups and even in all my different circles all over the globe. I'm like, well, what do you make the money for? Like, what's your dream? What are the things that you love doing? What are the people you love hanging out with? What are the experiences you like having? Right. And the saddest part is like, well, I want to retire a little earlier and then do all these things. I don't want to wait until 65, but I want to retire with 60 and then I'm going to like travel the world. And I'm like,
that sounds
that's
horrible to
30
me.
years out. No, that's
No.
so much life to be lived until there that like without making dreams a reality. I'm like, no, 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 no.
I've had this conversation. There's a person that this comes to mind. If you're listening to this, you'll know who you are. But we've had this conversation where this person is very financially fit. She has no children. She has a partner. She has a stable job, and she works her took us off.
Yeah.
And she will not take vacation. She will not work out. She will not. She just works and works and works and works. And I'm like, but for what? Like,
What?
I even played the worst case scenario with her. I was like, so what happens? You lose your job tomorrow and you go through all of your savings. Then what? Well, I'm moving with my parents.
Would you even be able to blow through all your savings?
Yes. Would you even be
What
able
would
to?
you do? What would you do?
Yes.
What would you fill your day with if it wasn't work?
If it wasn't work. And I think that's a great, great, great question. And, bringing it back to trading time for money, how do we step away from that mindset and move more into a mindset of abundance and
Mm.
wealth?
Another fantastic question. So one thing I first say, and what's like a big part of my program that we'll get into in a little bit, is that awareness. It's the awareness of what do I actually have? What do I actually want? What do I need? And taking a step back from the I'm just doing all the time, right? Which is very typical. Like I'm just back in New York, like there's a hustle. Like where you are, like LA, San Francisco, like all the places, once we start being there, right? Like we're surrounded by this it's a chip on your shoulder to like just constantly be busy and be doing, 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 where a lot of other things are obviously definitely falling behind and then we might not focus on. But first part is always that awareness about your finances, about what does your dream life look like? What would make you really, really fulfilled? Are you capable of stepping away and even enjoying your life and being like, hey, this is what I'm working towards? If you have a partner, if you have a family, do you guys have a shared kind of North Star on
Mhm.
this is what we would love to do together? And are you carving out both time and money and resources, right, to do that? Or are you kind of forever postponing it, that part, we will do that when? And so awareness. First, can you even say that? Can you have an honest conversation just with yourself? I always have everybody, journal in my sessions or also when they first come to me. I'm like, paint me the picture. of what is your ideal picture. And they're like, wait,
Mhm.
what? I thought you were just going to help me structure my finances. And I'm like, if we don't know, we're trying to board a bus here, and you can't tell me if you want to go on the bus, where you want to go with the bus. What are we going to tell the driver?
Yeah,
Where do you
just
want to
wait.
go?
Just
Like,
just
right?
just wait for
And
30 more
so,
years.
yeah. And it's so I would say awareness, it's a level of self-awareness. It's a bit of like an inward looking and an inward
Mhm.
journey. Understanding what's super important to you and what isn't. For some people, it is some kind of, right? And a lot of that ties back in psychology of like, do we feel safe and secure? Is there probably like something about an upbringing, about the example of a woman in your circle that you have just
Mhm.
mentioned? There's obviously a lot deeper psychology that's going on there because logically, people like that, they know there is something going on, but there's probably some like pretty deep rooted, other components where they've just decided not to open Pandora's box yet
Mhm.
because there's a lot of being scared. But I feel like that exercise, I'm really looking a bit more inward, and being aware of what I want, and then being like, okay. And I always say, once we have that awareness, now let's align your money to your dreams. And then people always look at me and they're like, we doing what?
Mhm.
And I'm like, what do you want to spend your money on? What do you want to have all this money for? You working your buttocks off. And what? Do you want to be a paper millionaire? What is that supposed to do for
Mhm.
you? Is that just safety and security because somebody told you you need millions in the bank in order to be secure? Let's break that down a little more and actually paint your perfect life. And then let's make a plan how we can get you there.
I think that's so, so, so remarkable. And I think as women too, like, I don't know, I don't want to blanket statement to every woman. It's hard to ask for help. So having
Mm.
that sounding board of a professional where you are able to kind of show your cards that you're holding so close to your chest to someone, and like especially someone who's an expansive individual to help you dream and help you
Yeah.
envision and help you plan. But at the same time, I'm curious for people who might feel shame around money, where
Mhm.
they're not making enough money or they don't
Mhm.
feel like they're at a place yet where they can give themselves permission to work with a financial a empowered person. Like it could be a financial planner, it could be a financial coach, whatever it is. What are your feelings on those people?
Lots of feelings. So what I see with so many women, you would be surprised the level of shame women feel around money. And we can just, play this game around our circle, everybody you just know. And to this
Yeah.
day, even now I'm in this field. When do women ever talk about money out in the open? It doesn't even matter if you don't make enough or if you make quite a bit. Like we have been told in society that it is not ladylike, it
Yeah.
is greedy, it is not normal for a woman to talk about money, especially wanting more of it, potentially saying, I don't feel I'm making enough. And obviously, right, with all these conversations about um like the gap in like salaries and raises and everything, we're starting to bring more and more in the last couple of years right back to the surface. But there is so much of, even if you make enough, there's so much shame around it. Maybe I'm making enough, but oh, I should be making more. Or maybe somebody else is ahead of me. I don't know the other women in my like world. Women barely even talk to their friends about money, which is
Hmm.
a topic that I really, really do want to normalize on having just more almost roundtable conversations. It's pretty normal for men when men have a dinner conversation that at some point
Hmm.
money and investments will come up. Yo, what are you doing? What is your appreciating asset? Are you getting in this and this? Women, it's like, are we good? Okay, 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 maybe it's just not normal to have the conversation. And so I always say, first, let's try to normalize it. If you have friends that you trust, just be like, hey, how do you guys feel about your money? And sometimes it's just
Hmm.
a normal conversation to even allow everybody to being like, why is this so weird? This feels weird. Like I'm not comfortable doing this. But slowly just getting our like nervous system used to even just saying it. And so I host a lot of, these kind of things where we can just come together and be like, let's just have a conversation. Like I don't ever have anybody declare what their actual bank balance is. We only do that in like, personal confidential one-on-ones.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, how do you feel about it? Do you know if you're making enough? Do you make too little? A lot of women underestimate how much they have, weirdly. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, I think I should be further. I think I should have enough. I don't know what the number is, but I feel like I'm behind.
Yeah. I know the behind, especially in entrepreneurship, I think there's that, myself included, like that moment where you stepped out of your corporate
Mhm.
consistency. Like there
Totally.
were several years I didn't contribute to a 401k. It's
Mhm.
probably until like 2019, and then I opened up a SEP IRA because no one told me that I could open up one, you know?
How would you know?
I
How would
didn't
you know?
you don't know until you have that conversation with the right person who's like, oh,
Right.
you could still be like growing the money that you've had sitting in that 401k. Like,
Hmm.
oh,
Hmm.
cool, 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 cool. That would have
And
been
right. Yeah.
really
Yeah. And
helpful.
there's all these little, I call them blind, like blind spots. You don't know what you don't know. And it's not like you know what to ask because you're not
Mhm.
even aware that you're missing out on anything.
Totally. Totally, totally. Yeah, I think there's a lot of those in life in general.
For sure.
So, my question for you is, let's aim this mostly to entrepreneurial women at this moment
Yeah.
in time. So, you're an entrepreneur, you're hearing this conversation, your head is like bobbing along, being like, yep, 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 I felt that feeling, I felt that feeling. What are the immediate next steps you want to suggest to these people?
What do they have a particular problem set, or are we just going general?
Let's say general. Let's say
Okay.
general. They maybe they don't talk about money with their girlfriends.
Hmm.
Money is definitely something they feel an emotion around,
Hmm.
usually like a shame or they don't have
Hmm.
a lot of it, or they don't feel like they could be braggadocious around their friends who are having these corporate jobs and talking about these like year-end bonuses that are blowing their minds and moving them up tax brackets.
Hmm.
How can they show up to a conversation with money with more confidence?
Great question and a tricky one.
I know. It's
I
very nuanced.
so what I, and this is something that I had to learn myself, right? Having stepped away from a well-paying,
Hmm.
nice earning corporate job into entrepreneurship. You've been there, like what a lot of us will have been
Yeah,
there, where also you're going to constantly kind of compare back then. Like, did I give up this? At the time, it didn't even look that cushy, but looking back now, it feels quite cushy kind of
totally.
paycheck. And do I now maybe have to look in what I invest back into my business? It's all on me to do that. And so, all to say, one of those first things that I found really, really helpful, even with myself, is really diving deep into what do I value about my money and really be like, where do I like spending my money? Where do I want to go? And so, for example, also with girlfriends or also with people that have very, very different income levels, it is so empowering if you at some point are like, ladies, guys, girlfriends, this like brunch that we do once a month that's ending up costing every single one of us $250. And I feel like I don't even get to connect with half of you because the table is so big. I'm kind of not like, ugh, it doesn't make me feel great. I don't love it. I would love to do something else where we have so much more because I value, right? And then fill it in. And that already is becoming because there's such a weird peer pressure as well, where you're like, what are we
Mhm.
doing? What are the activities? Does everybody enjoy them? Or have we just decided that that's what we find exciting? And so first, just know what you value. All to say, if you love that brunch and this is the best thing that happens on one Saturday, go do it. Just don't do it if you
Mhm.
don't love it, right? And so find the things you value and also bring that in when the other people are there and being like, what do you love doing with your money? Like, what is it that your perfect life that money allows you to do and enables you to do? Because I always say, money is at the end of the day, it's just a tool. It's a tool to like exchange for I just have this money and I'm getting something that is something of value to me. And getting really clear on that and kind of breaking free a little bit from some of the societal pressures. And then the other part that I always see with entrepreneurs, anybody or coach, anybody really, right, who's no longer under the umbrella of there's somewhat of a predictable paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, that like inconsistent income, is the one thing that's pretty consistent in our lives is expenses and your costs. What your life costs in a given month, aka rent, groceries, transportation, insurance, that kind of stuff. Let's start making a list and be somewhat clear what your life costs in a given month, the stuff that you can't really downsize, right? Where you're like, that's baseline. Like, here's my fixed expenses. What's the stuff you like spending money on where you're like, in order to be operating at a great human level, I need to have my therapist twice a month. I need to
Mhm.
have a self-care day. I need to be able to fill in the blank, right? What makes you operate and be in good nervous system standing with yourself. Be really, really clear on that and start understanding kind of the run rate that you have, because there is a lot of, and to this day, I surprise myself with this where I'm like, oh, I kind of know my spending per month.
Then you don't.
You have one or two, three things that happen to you, to the business, to life that month. And you're just like, did we
Mhm.
just blow above that on $3,000? And was that indeed an exception and an outlier month? Or is there a creepy $3,000 extra? Once again, I'm making up the numbers here where
Yeah.
you're just like, oh my goodness, this happens every month. It just looks different.
And it's so funny you say this because there's an aspect of like an old version of myself where in New York, I was like, if I can just pay my rent, like that will be, I will be happy. And yeah, my rent was not that much now in hindsight compared to
Sure.
life in general. Be like, I will just be happy. And like, I didn't factor food into it. I
Mhm.
didn't factor anything else. I was just
Could
eating.
I just sit in my really cute little New York apartment, do nothing else, and that be good? And you were like,
Definitely. I was like eating almonds like a little rat, just, scounging for scraps. Um, but also, I think being single, there was this aspect of hustling more. Like you brought in the
totally.
word hustling. I'd
Yep.
like rent out my apartment and like in exchange, for months, there would be levers that I could pull. And it is fascinating those fixed costs when you have those fixed costs and you're like, I can't necessarily withdraw a child from daycare this month and then pop them back in next month. Like
Hmm.
they're a little harder and that needle
Totally.
moves.
Yep.
But I so appreciate what you said too about saying no. And I think that boundary of like you could have all your girlfriends are getting brunch and because that's fun or was the tradition, there's something really empowering about like spending money when you want to spend money and when you mean it and you're all in versus going to brunch and being that girl who orders like a glass of water and a side salad and you're still paying 250 bucks.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just really that part, right? Like if brunch is your thing or not your thing, but it's the part of don't and there's a lot of like financial I feel like this is becoming a bit more like if you
Mhm.
follow any of the people on Instagram and something like that, there's a lot of good things in there on really figuring out what is important to you in life. Where do you like to spend your money? Make sure that is indeed where you spend your money, things you value, things that are worth it to you, and cut back on the stuff where you end up being like, "Oh my good God, I hate that."
Yeah.
Like I have this thing, I'll give you my example. Like I think you know this, but I live on a like fifth or sixth floor walk up
Mhm.
in New York City, the good Sex and the City apartment we still are keeping
Yeah.
around. And I have this thing where I'm like, oh my God, well, any DoorDash driver will for sure hate me having to come up here. I'll probably have to meet him halfway because otherwise he's not gonna even come in. But then I also order something and I'm like, that was a mediocre bowl of, right? God knows what, great, like a grain bowl. And you're like, how with all the fees did that come out to be $31?
Oh my God, it
That
drives me
was not worth
insane.
$31. And then I'm just like, I now no longer enjoy this grain bowl
Nope.
because where did all these fees go? And what is it? So I have a particular thing about or like order out, order in, and do that. And I've had that a couple of times where, also I would get stressed in business. It would just be a convenience. And I would look at my credit card statements at the end of the month and being like, how did I end up paying like 10 quick lunches in $300? I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
good God, don't enjoy that. Would I maybe enjoy, a like tasting menu in one of the nice restaurants in New York and be like, I will happily pay $300 for that?
Totally.
Absolutely. And so I guess the point I'm making is very much figure out what a dollar is worth to you. It
Mhm.
is worth different in different like settings.
I'm I have never cried more than in San Francisco when the food was delivered and it would come and it was like freezing cold. It would take an hour and it was like mediocre or they would
So
like
mediocre.
so mediocre. I remember there was one time, it was like 2 days before I gave birth to my first son, and I had ordered fries from Suvla, and they didn't
Oh,
have the fries, and I just like broke down hysterically. And
yeah.
my husband's
Yeah.
like,
Souvla
"What?"
fries, and you needed that frozen Greek yogurt with the olive
Just
oil,
needed
and it
it. It
was
was like
yes.
melted. Yes, it's just so sad. And I was like, we could have gone there, or we would order this gluten-free, this cauliflower pizza from like a ghost kitchen. We'd order two of them, and it'd be $100.
Mhm.
And we do it every Friday. And I'm like, why is this pizza so effing expensive? And we'd even like try to find the location and pick it up. Still $100. Like, just everything was so expensive. And
Yeah.
I couldn't, I'm exactly like you. Like, I felt so, like, I didn't enjoy it. I was just
You
mad
didn't enjoy it, and then you feel guilty and
and
mad.
guilty. Yeah.
And that was the worst feeling. Because now I've just had mediocre food that I paid $100 for, and now I'm not even happy. Because if that was part of your guys' date night, you're like, cauliflower pizza, it's
Oh
always
my
been
God.
our thing. That paired with a nice bottle of God knows what it was at home, and you're like,
Fine. Yeah.
this is our thing, worth every penny. You wouldn't think about it twice. You'd be like, this gives me so much joy. Let's go. Yeah.
A
So by the way,
1,000.
I on that kind of stuff, I always make the joke. I say this to like all my clients everywhere. I'm like, let's do the Marie Kondo effect with your credit card statement.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the line items. And if it sparks joy, we're going to keep doing it. If you get the ick, we're cutting that stuff out.
So smart. It is so smart. Well, okay, Carolyn, I could talk to you for like another 72
Yes,
hours.
please.
And this is
I'm
really
with you.
this is really challenging. But I'm like, how do we do a part one, two? Maybe we'll do
We've gone down the rabbit
part
hole
two.
of cauliflower pizza.
I know. I was like, oh, there's so much I could shut my mouth on. I'm like, shut my mouth. I'm like, well, so I'm curious, Carolyn, where can people find out more about you, find out more about the financially fierce, and kind of get a taste of Carolyn, if not
Yes.
tasting menu?
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Whew,
Thank
we're
you.
back.
So exactly. Woof, back on track. The two most places I would say is definitely Instagram, and there it is, the financially fierce.
Mhm.
And then on LinkedIn, you can just find me under my normal name, and same, the financially fierce page. It's Carolin Helff, and you'll see, finance coaching and money strategy. And the financially fierce is very much around that. That's why the brand name is that, and why, because I identify so much with it. Because most women, the emotion or any kind of feeling towards their finances that comes up is usually a negative emotion. It's nothing ever that's empowering and boom, I'm a badass, lady in any of this. And so I'm like, whenever they come to me, I'm like, I want us to be fierce. Like
Yeah.
when we talk about our monies, we're like super fierce. We feel great about how it's all set up. And so come find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. I have a couple of cool replays that you can tap into, some webinars, some, like freebie checklists so you can get a feel for it. You'll get a feel for me fast talking on any of my videos and
I love
reels.
it.
So come in and get a
So
taste
good.
for it.
It's so good. Well, Carolyn, before we go, and thank you so much for just the honest conversation. This was so empowering for me, and I hope it's just as empowering for those listening to us today. But before we go, I'm curious, quick, fast questions for you. Tell
Mhm.
us an unknown fun fact about Carolyn.
Well, I've kind of given you the
The good
Dubai
one.
story because they used to call me the like smallest bouncer in Dubai because I'm a very, this, I'm very short. I'm like 5'3". And so I would just like hold the door of this very fantastic hotel and people are like, wait, what? What?
I
So
mean,
my other persona back in the day.
there's like no riffraff in Dubai, right? Like you're like, oh, you're a five-star person. You can't come in here.
That's right. And I did have like, about 19 security people before they would come to me. So it was, yeah, it was just had to say at the rope.
That's so cool. I would like to go out to a club with you. Who would be a dream person for you to meet or be connected with?
Oh, that's so tricky.
I know
Because I
it's a
feel like
hard
there's
one.
so, right? There's so many fantastic people. And this is going to sound somewhat boring, but I still feel like Michelle Obama, because
Hmm.
especially if you look at her nowadays, like how she shows up different with her hair no longer, all
Mhm.
blown out. Like she's just such a badass. And I just kind of want to sit down with her, have a glass of like fun bubbles or preferably a mezcal margarita and being like, how does it really feel? What's going on in the background?
Yeah,
And how often do you have to bite your tongue due to you can't say what you actually want to say?
totally. You're like, I want to spill tea all the time, but you have to keep it together. What show are you currently watching?
Ooh, what did I watch the other day? Okay, so here's a funny thing. I watch mostly TV in the winter when it's cold. Otherwise, I'm very extroverted and run to all my
Okay.
networking events. But I did watch one the other day, and oh, what was it? God, that's not gonna. I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna have
Okay.
to bring this up. Yep.
She's like, I watch TV, I think. It totally okay if you
Sometimes.
don't. What book are you reading, or do you just like off the top of your head, you think everyone should read?
So I just recently, with my business coach, got into one that I really enjoyed. I usually tend to read two books at once.
Hmm.
One that's very much tickling my brain from a business perspective and something new. And that one is that I just started is The Gap and the Gain.
Ooh,
I'm not sure if you know that one. It's very much on the mindset for high achieving people. And whenever
okay.
we take on something new, that we sometimes will subconsciously or just do it to our own detriment always look at the gap. Oh, but I used to
Mm.
make this much money in corporate and now I'm in this, coaching business and I'm only making this much. And it's the gap of what I used to do and what I do now, rather than focusing on, I completely started a new chapter. I did so many amazing things and essentially focus on the gains and the small wins that you've already had. It's a very typical, I think, high achiever problem. I see it a lot with my clients. They're like, but I wish I was further. And I'm like, let's
Hmm.
focus on how far you've come.
I love that.
Um, so that's one. That's about the gap and the gain. And then the other one is just, I think you're gonna like this. Yours truly from
Oh,
Abby
so good.
Jimenez, like any of
Love it.
those. And I do a lot
You
of audiobooks because I'm like,
see,
let me go move and I'm just gonna pop that in my headphones.
I finished all of them. I think I've read every Abby Jimenez that there is to read. It's
I'm
so
like, give
good.
me a little romance.
So good. It's like the same formula over and over again.
Over and over. And
It's
they're these beautifully emotional, available men. And I'm like,
yeah,
yes, more of that too. The world needs that
always.
faster, then that is normal.
The man is always a good one, and the woman's like, I can't be with you because I'm fill in the blank her problem. I can't have kids or da, da, da. You're like
All the things, right?
yeah,
Limiting beliefs all over.
all over. It's really funny. Okay, what is your favorite or most used emoji?
Ooh, tricky.
I know these are the hard
I'm like,
questions.
these are all hard. Damn, Emily. I feel like I'm like somewhere between like a cheeky winky
Okay.
smile is always my thing. I'm like, ooh, did I just say something cheeky and let's see if you react to it kind of thing?
She's like, everything I do, like, I would like to order this cheeky wink.
Cheeky wink. I do this with my finance
DoorDash.
clients where I'll just be like, so how are we doing on like getting the Marie Kondo effect on our credit card? How are
Yeah.
we doing overspending? Wink, wink. They're like, God damn it. Nice
Yeah.
call out, but you're doing it in a cute way.
You're so cute at asking me the hard
I'm
questions.
like, am I your hype girl right now or am I getting the whip out? You get
Yeah,
to pick.
I love it. And then my final question for you today is what permission do you want to give our listeners of today's episode?
Mm. You don't have to have it all together before you can start having financial foundations. It's literally the tiny little things. Do one step. Spend
So
1 hour with yourself. And if it's a journal exercise on how do I actually want my dream life to look like, don't postpone it. Don't push it out. Don't let life take over and be like the hamster wheel is more important than me. Just having a look inwards.
applause. I love it. I love it. Big, big mic drop and round of applause. And Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us today and for all of your wisdom and grace on today's episode of The Second Degree.
Thank you so much for having me. Welcome back, Emily. I
Thank
can't wait
you.
to have you back and all the wonderful things
I'm
you
all
do.
back. I'm all back. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
And thank you. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye.